Something I wanted to ask you about, just with the fact that your son was kind of, working on the death row security situation. Did you ever worry about him, or were you ever kind of just concerned or nervous for him kind of being involved in that side, whether it was before or after the Tupac situation?
All the time.
Yeah.
Even when he first started working, because like I said, I turned down working because I know that didn't mix. But my son, who was right there when I met with Suge, you know, he knew he was starting his security business anyway. He was starting, wondering why, since I didn't want to take it, I didn't let tell her, Suge. But my son at that time, 30 something years old, starting his own business. So when I got away from that, he and Suge got together and Suge started hiring him in his security, Right Way Security, to work for him. And that's when he became Suge's security. Everybody said he was Suge's bodyguard or something. It wasn't necessarily he was his bodyguard. He was just over security, and he spent most of his time with Suge. And that's kind of like that. But yeah, all that went down. There was a whole lot of stories behind that. I mean, somebody's out on the internet now talking about I was at the fight that night, and I was part of the crowd, and I was bodyguarding somebody. I was at home sleep. When the stuff jumped off, Reggie called me at home and told me both Suge just got shot and Tupac, and he thought Tupac was dead at that time, but Tupac died 2 or 3 days later or something. But that kind of how that went down that night and stuff. But
So, something I was curious about, obviously a little bit of time passes, Biggie's killed as well, which you said, may have been in retaliation. But I've heard stories, you can tell me whether this is true or not, that in the aftermath of Tupac being killed, it didn't happen in Compton or Los Angeles, but in the weeks that followed, I heard there was a lot of shootings that were kind of connected. Is that true?
that exactly happened. Let me tell you about my involvement, non-involvement, and because how that jumped off. Well, naturally, that night when it all went down, the police had to get involved because we talking about a homicide, and well, they didn't know it was a homicide, but attempt on my boy in this fight, and all this is going to be really, I would say, notorious. Yeah, shooting is going to be all over the news and all that. That particular night, naturally, when the police started investigating and get involved, they hear about this Reggie Wright that's over security, who wasn't there, but he contacted them. And they kind of talked, I'm talking about the investigator, not the patrol guy, and they wanted to get information about the shooting. Well, gang culture, you don't talk to the police, you don't give up that information. So Reggie, the kids, the guys that were in the entourage, the other cars and stuff that eventually chased the shooters off and chased after them, the police wanted to get their stories. But you don't talk, and you should probably wasn't going to allow him to talk. So when they heard that Reggie Wright was over security and he talked to him and he couldn't get them to come and talk to the police, well, Reggie Wright is taboo, or he's part of it or something. I'm getting involved because Reggie is calling me knowing that I know about all this and it's going to come back to the city, like getting to your original question. He called me and started telling me, hey, man, there was Orlando and them behind this. They got in a fight because they saw saw Orlando and all that. He says, but it's them, So I'm into that right now. So I start trying to call that night, 2 o'clock in the morning, as the lieutenant. I start calling Las Vegas PD to tell them, hey, man, I got information who they're looking for and all that. But when they heard it was Reggie Wright, they thinking it's my son or me that's calling. So they shut it off. They shut it down. They didn't want to talk to me or they wouldn't take my calls to give them the information that night. So the next morning, when those guys got back to Compton and the Bloods knew, the mob knew that they did the shooting, well, all of a sudden they started retaliating the next morning. And they started a shooting where they saw one of the Southside members who wasn't out there in Vegas that I know of, named Darnell Brim. Darnell coming out of a store, this 10, 11 o'clock that next morning, and they shot at Darnell. Unfortunately, it hit a little girl as well. I think she survived. I don't think it was a murder. But all that started. Then, after shooting Brim, the Southsiders came to the blood area that night and shot, and they killed 2 of them. So we about to start all this investigation. But because of the Reggie Wright being involved and to the point of it, and I usually lead that type of investigation, the chief thought it was best to pull me off of that case directly in the investigations, and for me to put my sergeant, Bobby Baker, the one I told you being in with the guy, who was my sergeant, in charge. So I wasn't directly involved in it. But we start having shootings for the next 3 days, back and forth between Pirus and Southside. And I think we had several murders on each end and all that. So as a result of that, we had to crack down on both gangs. That's when we did a big, search warrants on each group. That Blondie and Ladd kind of, did the warrants and stuff. And we started doing warrants at the houses and taking guns from both groups to kind of settle that down, that back and forth, because they did have several shootings as a result of that.
So there's been a lot of talk recently, obviously. Keefe D has been arrested in connection to the murder of Tupac. Orlando Anderson, who you...
I love how you say Tupac.
Tupac. The people keep getting on me. People say it's Tupac, but it doesn't sound... It doesn't feel right.
I got you. That's your accent. But go ahead.
But from what I understand, obviously you believe Orlando Anderson was responsible.
He was, yeah.
He passed away, obviously.
He didn't pass. He passed away after he was shot several times in a shooting right after that.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you about. Was what can you tell me about the circumstances of his death? And was that connected? Was that just regular street activity?
No, that was something altogether different.
Really?
Or I should say we, because like I said, Las Vegas wasn't cooperating with us that much. Didn't want to, because they felt as though we had crooked cops or Reggie Wrights and all that. So they wasn't taking our information. And then again, there were detectives down here, came the next day and night to try to get the information we had, but they were reluctant into really dealing with us directly. But I guess at some point, Vegas PD says, hey, we don't want to pursue this. They out of Vegas, it's family settings and stuff. Then none of our people get shot. And this is me. It's just me, my... how would you say it? Not assumption, but my thinking at the time. They pulled the detectives away, told them to come back. I think the officials in the city didn't want to make an arrest or anything, because if they made an arrest on this, then all of a sudden with Tupac's notoriety, it would be big news every time they have a court hearing and stuff. Negative publicity coming to Vegas. So they pulled the detectives out. That was there. We still investigating all this shooting and stuff, and we had to deal with it, but we had gathered a lot of information regarding who was responsible, the vehicle used and all that. But then they kind of let it go.
So you guys couldn't arrest Orlando Anderson because it wasn't your case?
It wasn't our case. Only thing we could do is help and pass on information to support Las Vegas in their investigation. They were somewhat listening, but not totally, because Brennan and Ladd subsequently met with somebody and tried to give them some information as time is going on. Yeah. But Tupac, you were asking me directly about Orlando Anderson. Yeah. So well, Orlando was always a person of interest, a suspect in Las Vegas thing, but they really wasn't, in my opinion, that's what I want. In my opinion, they weren't really trying to pursue it, because they really didn't want to make an arrest. Yeah. But then, months later or something like that, unrelated to all that, Orlando is going to a famous hamburger shop that's over there near Compton High School, right across from a car wash called Mom's Burger. Orlando goes over there at Mom's to get a hamburger or something. He looks across the street at the car wash, and it was 3 corner pocket Crips. Now these are Crips, but this is about dope. 2 of the brothers, they were brothers, over there had allegedly owed some money to Keefe D for the dope. So Orlando wanted to deal with him, but he was by himself. He took off from Mossburger and went not too far and picked up a little dude that I've been knowing since a baby named Lil Al, who was definitely a Southsider. Him and Orlando was like this. They were raised together. So Al, Michael DeRoe, that's his name. But Al, he went and picked up Al and got Al to ride back up there with him. So when they got back up there, naturally the dudes are still at the car wash because they're getting their car washed. And then that's when your boy, Orlando, gets out to go confront him. He's armed. And he about to get in a confrontation with him, but they're armed. Yeah. And then at the car wash, a shooting occurred. Orlando ended up getting shot, plus he shot 2 of the 3 guys that were shooting at him. Killed 2 of them. Really? Orlando did. But they get back in the car because Orlando gets hit. And at some point they said Michael grabbed the gun and shot at her, at the group too. I don't know, but they take off. They take off. Michael driving. Orlando in the passenger seat, wounded. I mean, probably dead because he's shot in the head and stuff. But anyway, that car wash is about 2 blocks from the police station. This is happening in the afternoon, 4 or 5 o'clock. I'm on the rear lot talking with Ladd and Brendan and some people. We hear the gunshots because it's that close. And so naturally they start putting out on the radio, the dispatch, we on the lot, gunshot victims at the car wash over there on the line. So I jump in my car first, and then Ladd and them got in their car, but I take off first. Now, I have one of these undercover cars, like what wasn't undercover because everybody in Compton knew it, but it had all the bells and whistles on it. I take off with the bells and whistles to go toward Willowbrook to go to the car wash. But when I get almost to the corner of Alondra where you turn at Coco, I see this dude in the street, like trying to flag me down, you know. As I get close to him, I recognize it's Michael DeRoe, you know, and I knowing what kind of Michael was going to get involved, I knew he had to be involved in that shooting. So as I get out the car right quick, he's hollering, "Red, Red." Because like I said, I know, "Red, Red." They shot Lando. They shot Lando. They shot. I'm thinking, oh, they involved in something. So I hook Michael butt up right quick. Make sure he ain't armed, right? So I hook him up, you know. And as I hook him up, I walk him to the side of the passenger side of that car. And there's Orlando in the car. And to me, he was like dead, but we called paramedics. They're rolling and stuff. So I had a couple of cops that rolled up there with me, Ray Richardson and a couple of my gang cops and some patrol that rolled up to my scene. I think even the chief rolled up there, Yuri. And then we all were there, but I told them to take Michael's butt to the station. And me and the gang, we went to the crime scene because now police, regular patrol units, everybody there, and it's a mess. Not about mess, I mean it's a big crime scene. And so that's when we get to looking into it and all, and realize that was the 2 involved and what happened. So that kind of, that incident. But as far as anybody going to jail behind that, I think Michael DeRoe was the only one, that got, because he got convicted because I think it came out somewhere in there, even though he flagged me down, and he told me the story about getting picked up and Orlando coming to get him, but Orlando got out, naturally he was telling me to talk to him, but they started shooting at them. So that's kind of how that went down. But Michael ended up getting convicted, and matter of fact is in jail now. Really? Naturally Orlando is got shot. That's when he got killed. Well, after the word gets out through law enforcement and through public and all that Orlando was dead, guess who got interested in the case again?
Oh, Las Vegas?
Yes, sir.
Really?
And then they sent people back now to get some of the evidence that during the raids, because we came up with information more about the shooting in Vegas and possible weapons and all that, they sent detectives down to collect that evidence now. Well, why? Because they can clear that as deceased, suspect deceased. That way no trial, nothing. I'm just showing you how the system works out here.
No, that's really fascinating.